John McCain was a thorn in Russia's side throughout his political career. In Russian media, he was portrayed as the ultimate Cold Warrior and a symbol of Russophobia. Joining me now to discuss is CNN national security commentator Mike Rogers. He's a former House Intelligence Committee chairman and the host of CNN's Declassified. Mr. Rogers, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on.
John, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. John McCain is remembered so far many things: his decorated military career, his decades in Congress, his presidential aspirations. What do you think John McCain's legacy will be?
You know, I think he's that guy that did work to reach his hand across the aisle when it wasn't popular. I think that's going to be a big part of it. He's very hawkish on national security. He believed in the importance of U.S. engagement in the world. I think that's going to be really important. You know, he led so many congressional efforts around the world to try to work out problems in real time. Didn't get a lot of credit for a lot of that, but he did a lot of just some great work overseas for that. And I think when you look at that body of work, I think that's the story of John McCain. He was for you, and I thought McConnell said it right today. You know, there's no better friend to have in a fight, and no worse enemy. When he wanted to clobber you, he surely came at you. As a member of Congress, I've been on both sides of that. But I always respected him, and his temper never, went longer than 24 hours. I'll tell you that. You know, he'd call you up sometimes after a disagreement when I was chairman, and say, yeah, we're all right, and he'd hang up the phone. And the next day we'd be, right back at something different. And
that's how it's supposed to be. That is how it's supposed to be. You have an argument or whatever, you go have a beer later or you go out for coffee or whatever, and then it's fine. You don't have to agree, but that's how it's supposed to be. Listen, let's stick to this Russia thing, because there's some pretty disgraceful things that have been said about him in Russia and recently on Russian television, because he was a frequent foe of Russia throughout his career, and the reaction to his death really hasn't been kind. Russian TV called him, quote, the main symbol of Russophobia. Russian senators said this about him: he is a symbol of the outspoken anti-Russian thinking. In essence, Russia cannot be anything other than hostile. The enemy is dead. May the Lord accept his dark soul and its future. Gee whiz. Why was McCain so? It's harsh, but why was he so unpopular, which was a good thing with the Russian government?
It was a good thing. I mean, actually, if John McCain were on your show right now, he would take that as a badge of courage.
Exactly.
Because he had the courage to stand up. He was very sober about what the Russians have been doing, not only recently, but over the last 40 years. You know, they can put on a happy face, but they have been pretty ugly actors around the world. And they do it with the levers of power that they have. They don't have an economy. I mean, when's the last time you bought anything that said made in Russia? Not recently. And so what they do is they use their intelligence services, they use cutouts, they do the things like they did to us in 2016. And John McCain understood that force was always and constantly at work to great democracies, including our allies, and was always willing to stand up. So I don't think he would even be bothered by it. I think he's probably got a bit of a smile on his face that the Russians, who he knew and frequently called out for their activities, now think that he's no longer important. But what they don't understand is I do think his legacy of that hawkish work across the aisle, U.S. engagement will transcend John McCain in a way that I think he'd be proud.
He spent 5.5 years in a Vietnamese prison after being shot down from a bombing mission in 1967. And this is what the man running the prison said of McCain's passing. He said, "At the time, I liked him personally for his toughness and strong stance. Later on, when he became a U.S. Senator, he and Senator John Kerry greatly contributed to promote Vietnam-U.S. relations. So I was very fond of him. When I learned about his death early this morning, I felt very sad." I mean, what is it about John McCain that even the man who oversaw his torture at the Hanoi Hilton came to admire him?
You know, this is one of those moments, Don, where you say we should not cry that he died, we should smile that he lived. And this is one of those moments. He was able to get through some very harsh treatment, both mentally, emotionally, and take that into his U.S. Senate role, and then reach back and say, I forgive, let's move on, we can do something better. And that really was that spirit and that legacy of John McCain. He always believed, yep, we're going to fight it out when we have a difference, But at the end of the day, we're going to work for something bigger and something better, because he always put his country first. And he believed that Vietnam, as a friend of the United States, was the better solution for the United States of America, and that international engagement. Think about somebody who could have carried a grudge, unlike what we have seen here in the United States in the last few days. This guy could have carried a grudge. He didn't do it because he put his country before that, and he put the interests not only of the people of Vietnam, who, by the way, he believed he was fighting for, and the interests of the United States. I just think that's the essence of John McCain's effort style and personal ethos that he brought to public office.